It's 5 a.m. in Albuquerque and the air smells like propane churros and pure adrenaline. There are photographers literally everywhere staking out their spots like territorial hyenas, and that is right, everyone is a photographer here at the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. This is one of the most photographed events in the world, if not the most photographed event in the world. Now because of this, everybody has a camera, everybody is photographing everything, and in fact on the second day there will be over 500,000 photos just posted of this event. In this video, I am going to be going through what I did as a photographer creatively so that I could get pictures that look just a little different than everybody else's. And I'm going to be sharing 13 unique photo ideas that you can get at the International Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta so that your photos will stand out as a photographer. Grab your gear, your patience, and your breakfast burrito and your coffee. Let's get started because the sky is about to put on a show. Now, first off, I do have to say the picture that everybody gets, which is basically mass ascension. This is what happens when all the balloons lift off basically at one point. So I would get this photo just to make sure that you have it, but just know that it will not be distinguishable pretty much at all from anybody else's. Okay, now that we got that boring one out of the way, let's go through all of the 13 unique ideas that I saw and did while I was at the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. Number 1, the Dawn Patrol liftoff. I had no clue that this was a thing. Now I tend to be more of a spontaneous photographer and I barely look at schedules, but this definitely was one thing that caught my eye. This is basically the first heartbeat of the Balloon Fiesta, and it's where the first balloons basically line up in a row and then they will go up into the air and test the conditions before mass ascension at 7 a.m. You can get some very, very cool shots here, and it's also such an adrenaline rush because this was the first time I'd ever seen anything like this. Now I debated on using a tripod because it is dark, but my issue was that there was slight wind. The first day that I went, it was actually a static day, so the balloons were swaying slightly, so my tripod actually didn't really work. So I ended up having to increase my shutter speed and also increase my ISO, which did unfortunately introduce grain, so I did have to go back in post-production and run it through Topaz AI just to get it sharp, but however, it still ended up working. Just know that it might be a little greeny. Now number 2, the jets, the sunrise, and the opening ceremonies. Now I was there for the first day, so we had jets streaking overhead, the national anthem, and the crowd losing its collective mind. For all of these opening ceremonies and all of the other events that don't have to do with mass ascension, I would check the schedule beforehand and make sure that you are buying the tickets for the correct day on what you want to photograph. The jets were it. Man, they were so cool. They literally flew over the balloons. I got a picture of the jets flying through the balloons up overhead. Absolutely stunning, and it is a once-in-a-lifetime shot. We also need to be prepared for it because I think a lot of people aren't prepared for it, so they don't end up getting a picture of it. Keep your ISO low, and then for the shutter, especially with the jets, do it at maybe like 1/1000th of a second, and I would definitely shoot on burst mode just in case because this happens quick, and if you miss it, you miss it. Now number 3, the wall of balloons lining up for liftoff. Once the Dawn Patrol clears the main event when the balloons will start lining up, this translates to a rainbow wall of giants just all around you. I don't know what I was expecting, but how I can explain it is that there's just a wall or a jungle of balloons. Now as I said, the first day that I went, it was static, so the balloons unfortunately did not lift off, but this meant that this effect was more intense. So all of the balloons just kind of sat there. They didn't launch. Normally during mass ascension, when they do launch, they kind of launch in waves. However, when they're static, they kind of just stay there, and this wall or forest of balloons is so crazy. So just because the balloons don't lift off, it might just be better for your camera. Now number 4, another unique photo idea for the Balloon Fiesta is the balloons inflating. You can walk around the balloons, and what I found is that all of these people are extremely nice, and if you just ask them to get up in the balloons business, they will normally let you. For example, I actually photographed this one from the basket itself, and this was the balloon inflating, which created a very unique perspective that not a lot of people get. Again, keep your aperture relatively open since this is early in the morning. Try to keep your ISO around 400 to 800, and then your shutter around maybe like 1/160th of a second. Now number 5, close-up of the flame, which is the burner flash, and that's what makes the balloon photos feel alive. This can be during the mass ascension or the night glow or anywhere where they are just trying to lift off. Now, funny story, I actually posted this and people were going crazy for these photographs, and this one was actually my most photographed photo of the entire balloon festival. So just because it is close up and it's not that huge stereotypical photo of all the balloons ascending, doesn't mean that it's not a great photograph. So get in there, get close, get the textures, get that flame. The only thing I have to say about this is that the highlights were a little tricky to control, especially during sunrise, so be prepared to experiment. Luckily, this does happen all the time because there is over 500 balloons launching, so you will have 500 chances to get that flame shot just right. As for settings, I would try to keep your ISO pretty low, and I would really bump up that shutter so that you can get those crisp flames inflating that balloon. Now number 6, shoot into the sunrise over hundreds of balloons. This one's probably going to be the closest to that stereotypical shot that people normally get. We're just gonna make it a little different here. So what I did for this one, which is one of my favorite shots that I got from the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, is I actually shot very wide and then I got low, got the crowd in it a little bit, and then I closed my aperture to like f16 to f22, and that creates a starburst effect. So right as the sun was rising over the Sandias, I basically captured that as a sunburst and shot it wide with 100 balloons in the shot. If this isn't working, you can always use your hand or a balloon edge just to partially block the sun as you shoot, and that can minimize the flare and makes the sunburst sharper. Number 7, close-up stacking. Even though there are literally hundreds of balloons, just try to focus on a few and compress them. Multiple balloons stacked tight can have organized chaos in color form. In fact, one of my favorite shots from Mass Ascension only focused on about 7 balloons out of 550. For this, you might need more of a telephoto lens. I would actually suggest maybe doing like a 70 to a 200 millimeter lens, and then just stack the colors and the patterns in whatever way you feel is artistically satisfying. Number 8, framing balloons within balloons. This one is a visual trick that takes a lot of patience, but if there are 2 balloons inflating in the foreground, as I said, they do kind of rise in waves, so you might be able to get this, but if you do have balloons inflating in the foreground, you can frame the sky of other balloons that have already lifted off in between them. Plus, we love some good framing composition. It just guides the eye and makes for some vivid storytelling, and as I said, it's just different. You can use the curved edges of the foreground balloons as natural framing, and then you can angle slightly upward just to include both the inflation action and the rising sky show in the background. Now, number 9, panorama of the sky. If you could bottle wonder, this would be it. As I said, we can do this during Mass Ascension, but we're gonna put a unique spin on it, and we're gonna go with pano mode. This was the only time when I didn't mind getting crowds in my photo because I felt that they were necessary for the storytelling aspect of the photo. I would try to get this at peak lift, around maybe like 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. or on a static day. I did this both on my phone and my camera. The phone was significantly easier, however, my camera ultimately won just because I liked the shot better and it was more crisp. Now number 10, the soul balloon. I feel like this is balloon overload, but there is something incredibly powerful about just one singular balloon. Or you can frame it where there is one singular balloon that is definitely the focus, and then you just have a bunch of little tiny dot balloons right behind it. One idea for doing this also, if you wanted to get some symmetry in your photos, is to get directly underneath of a balloon and shoot upwards. Another photo that I got that is probably actually my favorite photo that I got from the Balloon Fiesta was actually with a 100 to 400 millimeter lens, and I shot one balloon against the moon, and it kind of looks like it's resting on the moon. So this is obviously just one balloon, but it is extremely powerful, and it's my favorite shot, even though there were hundreds of balloons in the sky around me. Embrace the minimalism. Negative space is power. Personally, I suck at this as a photographer, but I'm working on it. Now number 11, the night glow. I had no clue that this was an event, but I am so glad that I went. I just didn't realize that the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta does not stop after the morning launch, and it actually has a second part in the evening. This highlight is several balloons basically rising and glowing over the sunset. Now, although they don't technically launch, they kind of just go up in a line and they, glow and all ignite their burners at once, and it's absolutely beautiful to watch over the New Mexico sunset. Now, this is where I would try it with a tripod and try it without. Again, it just depends on the wind and how much the balloons are moving, and it also depends how creamy you want that flame. If you do have a tripod and you increase your shutter speed, obviously that flame is not going to be as crisp. I ended up shooting actually handheld just because I liked the crisp flame better. And what happens is that you will hear the loudspeaker, they will rate for the all burn cue, and they will count you off, and then it will introduce a synchronized flame movement that is literally worth so many chills. It's so beautiful. However, be prepared because this only happened about 2 to 3 times. They do announce it and then it's done. So it's one of those things where you just have to be very prepared and you have to just go for it. If you do have a phone, I would suggest setting up your phone on a tripod and maybe going with some slow-mo so that in case you don't get a picture or it doesn't work out, you still have something. Now, number 12, the RV hill. There's actually a VIP RV hill that is basically like the best perspective ever. From here you can see the entire launch field and a sky stuffed with balloons. It's wide, it's cinematic, and it's your best shot for storytelling compositions. Another thing that I liked up there was that there were some flowers up there that made for some very, very cool foreground. I live full-time in an RV, so I was very, very lucky to get to be up there, but you do need a pass and they're very, very strict. Now, if you are on the RV hill, one thing that I have to say is make sure that you do get multiple sessions, because although I enjoyed the RV hill, I did really like the experience of being down on the balloon field as well. So definitely don't make the RV hill your only experience with the balloon fiesta. I would get both experiences, and if I had to choose one, I would be on the balloon field. But it's a really cool perspective that not a lot of people have. And number 13, the other festivities. Don't pack up quite yet. Before and after the glow and ascension and everything comes live music, churros, fireworks, drone shows, like chainsaw carving competitions, and just pure joy. So don't stop shooting when the balloons land. Other than seeing the balloons, I watched the fireworks show, I saw some traditional dances, and I actually got some pretty cool pictures of like cultural events and all these vendors and life. This is really good for street and event photography. So just because you're not photographing balloons doesn't mean you can't get some cool, unique shots that not a lot of people get. Most people put their cameras away after the balloons, but I would encourage you to keep it out at all times. Get creative. Whew! Okay, that's a wrap. Now it's time to go take a nap, maybe eat some breakfast. By the time the last balloon fades into the horizon and your memory card is full, you'll realize something, that the festival isn't just a photography bucket list item, it's just a full-blown sensory overload in the best way possible. Now, if you do get some unique balloon pictures, I am the ultimate adventure photography cheerleader and I would love to see them, so either shoot me a DM, post them in my Facebook group called Shutterbugs Gone Wild. I would love to cheer you on and see your pictures. If this video did help you in your photography bucket list, it would mean the world to this traveling and adventuring mermaid if you could just hit that like and subscribe button so I can keep bringing you free photography adventure content. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting my channel, and here's to living adventurously through the lens. We will see you next time.